The first time I broke, she recorded it, not to comfort me, not to hold me, but to save it for later, like a clip waiting to trend. Her hands were on my shoulders, but the phone was in selfie mode behind me. Her soft whispers of, "I'm here, baby," were perfectly timed with the sound of my sobs. When I found the footage 2 weeks later, it had 1.2 million views and a caption that read, "Loving someone with depression is the hardest kind of love." But what shattered me wasn't the title, it was the comments. "Poor girl, imagine dating someone that unstable. He looks like a dead weight. Sis, you're an angel for staying with him." And the worst part, she liked every single one. When I confronted her, Amy didn't flinch. She just said, "People needed to hear the truth, Franklin. You shut down all the time. What was I supposed to do, lie?" "No," I said quietly. "You were supposed to protect me." She sighed, brushing back her blonde curls, her tone exasperated like I'd spilled coffee on her favorite dress. "You're taking it too personally. My mental breakdown is trending. And that's not personal?" She turned away. "I'm tired of explaining. Maybe talk to your brother. He actually listens." David. The next morning, I found his number in her recent calls, 16 times in the last 3 days. I clicked on the thread. "Amy." He cried again, "I can't." "David, why do you stay?" "Amy. Because your mother would hate me if I left him broken." "David. You're stronger than this. Let him go. You deserve better." She was venting about me, to my brother, and he was helping her write my exit. That same night, I locked myself in the studio with one goal: finish the last track I'd been writing, the one Amy said sounded like a suicide note in disguise. I called it Muted, because that's how she liked me best: quiet, grateful, and broken. Margaret noticed something. Nong was off the next day. She worked with me at the recording space, part-time production assistant, part-time friend, full-time realist. "Your voice is gone," she said after hearing the raw cut. I shrugged. "Maybe I'm tired." "You look hollow," she replied. "Maybe I finally match the music." She didn't smile, she wasn't comfortable, she just said, "Delete her, all of her, before she makes art out of your collapse again." But Amy wasn't just on my phone, she was stitched into the lyrics, the photos, the drafts, the voicemail I couldn't delete from last February where she said, "No one else will love you like I do." I used to believe that, until I saw how easily she sent my broken pieces to my brother in bulk. It took me 3 days to open my notes app and start writing the caption. You ever wonder what a breakdown looks like from the outside? Below it, I pasted every screenshot, her late-night texts to David, the ones where she said I was exhausting, needy, like dating a ghost with baggage. Then I attached the one where she joked, "I should have picked David first, Franklin just came with the sad backstory." I clicked a post. No hashtags, no filter, just the sound of glass cracking. By morning, it had already hit 300K views. People started tagging her in the comments. "This you? You forgot to record this part? I'd cry too if my mask slipped this hard." She messaged me within the hour. "Amy, WTF are you doing? Amy, take it down. Amy, you're ruining both our lives." But I had already ruined once, mine. This time, I was just showing the raw footage. When people think of heartbreak, they imagine tears and silence. I imagine the sound of Amy laughing at my brother's texts while sitting on the kitchen counter, drinking from the mug I made her last Christmas. I was the one who crafted that mug in pottery class, sculpted it lopsided and all, and she said she loved it because flawed things feel more real. But she didn't love it. Just like she didn't love me. She loved the story I gave her. The rise of the anxious musician, the boy who survived 2 overdoses and still played open mics. I was her emotional arc. The quiet boy with sad eyes she could rescue in public and ridicule in private. My name is Franklin Reyes. I'm 24. I don't drink anymore, don't take pills, and I don't make eye contact when people say, "You're doing better now, right?" The truth is, I was. Until Amy. We met on a rainy afternoon 2 years ago. She had bright blue nails and an influencer aura. She showed up to Margaret's apartment for a small birthday get-together and was instantly magnetic. I was sitting by the window playing guitar, half hiding from everyone. She walked straight to me and said, "You look like you belong in a sad movie scene." I said nothing. She laughed and added, "Don't worry, I like broken things." That should have been my first warning. Amy wasn't evil, at least not in the traditional sense. She just knew how to twist attention like a camera lens, always adjusting the focus until she was framed in the best light. To outsiders, she was soft-spoken, sweet, and supportive. To me, she was passive-aggressive warmth, layered in half-truths and staged affection. Our first month together, she showed up with baked banana bread and whispered, "I know you skip meals when you spiral." The third month, she started filming me playing guitar in the mornings, captioning it "My genius in healing." By the sixth, I stopped playing. She would cry on my chest and say things like, "I'm scared one day I'll come home and find you gone." I'd hold her tighter, thinking that maybe she was afraid of losing me, but now I know she was more afraid of losing the narrative, because when she filmed me crying on the bathroom floor, she didn't think to put the camera down. She just thought, this will make people understand how hard I have it. There's a particular moment that haunts me. We were at my brother David's apartment, a simple dinner to reconnect after some months. David had always been the polished one. He wore confidence like a fitted blazer, smiled like nothing touched him. He got the scholarships, the job offers, the clean slate. I was the messy draft that kept rewriting itself. But he was still my brother, and I thought he'd understand. When Amy met him, her entire posture changed. The softness sharpened. She laughed louder, touched his wrist while talking. I remember thinking, maybe I'm just being paranoid, but paranoia is just intuition dressed in doubt. That night, while I was cleaning up dishes, I heard them in the hallway. "Amy, you're easy to talk to." "David, you're easy to read." Amy laughs. "Good, that's how I know you're dangerous." "David, only if you're playing with fire." Their voices dropped after that. I couldn't hear the rest, but I didn't need to. Later, she kissed me in the car like nothing had happened. Said, "I love you, you know that, right?" And I nodded, because when your heart's been stitched back together too many times, sometimes you let it bleed quietly, rather than tear it open again. Margaret always stayed out of it. She had known me the longest, since the years I used to disappear from school, since the week I almost didn't make it back. She never judged Amy, never accused her, but every time she visited and saw me thinner, quieter, more faded, she'd say, "When you're done breaking for someone, I'll still be here." And I believed her, but belief isn't the same as action. I kept choosing Amy, again and again. Until the video. It was Amy's way of ending things without saying goodbye. She didn't break up with me, she just let 1.2 million strangers do it for her. In her teary monologue, she said things like, "He shuts down, he won't let me in, I've tried everything." She played clips of me crying, of me walking out of therapy, of me standing silently in front of the fridge at 3 a.m. She curated my pain like a gallery exhibit, and the world applauded her bravery. I didn't reply, I didn't go online, I didn't leave my apartment, but I read the texts, not just the ones she sent David, the ones he replied with. "You're strong for staying. I always thought you deserved better. He's like a storm that never ends." I was a storm to him, a script to her, and a burden to myself. But Margaret, she was the one who stayed in the quiet. She brought soup without a word, left a note that read, "Franklin, you are not the story they get to write." I folded that note and put it in my wallet. That was the day I knew I had to start over. But first, I had to finish the last chapter they tried to write for me. Not for revenge, but for clarity. Because if I had to burn down the lie to breathe again, so be it. The day after Amy's video went viral, I didn't go outside, I didn't open Instagram, I didn't check my phone except once, to turn off notifications. The flood of tags, messages and sympathy was deafening, but what was louder was the silence from David. He didn't call, didn't text, didn't ask if I was okay, which was strange, considering he'd been so invested in supporting Amy through the emotional strain of dating someone unstable. But I suppose when the narrative is one-sided, it's easier to sit in comfort. Margaret showed up around noon with grocery bags and headphones around her neck. She didn't knock, just walked in like she always did, like she knew I needed her there before I even asked. "Your fridge had one sad apple and a half bottle of almond milk," she said, unloading without waiting for me to respond. I sat on the floor near the wall. I wasn't hungry. "Yeah," she said. "I guessed." She tossed me a granola bar. "Eat that or I'm staging a protest in your kitchen." I took a bite. It tasted like chalk. She sat down across from me, resting her head back against the opposite wall. We didn't speak for a while. Then she asked, "Do you want to talk about it?" "No," I said. "But I probably should." She waited. She posted me crying, I said finally. The breakdown from November. Margaret blinked slowly. The one in the hallway? I nodded. She filmed the whole thing, said she was holding me, but she was holding her phone. Margaret clenched her jaw, but didn't speak. She just pressed her lips together and nodded once. I reached into my pocket, unlocked my phone, and opened the texts between Amy and David. I passed it to her. Read it. You deserve to know. She scrolled slowly, her expression unreadable. After a minute, she whispered, "He called you a liability." "Yeah. And she said you were only good on stage." I didn't reply. Margaret handed me back the phone like it had burned her skin. She stared at the floor. "Franklin, I don't know if I want to punch her or throw up. I already did both." She looked at me. "What do you want to do next?" I leaned my head back against the wall and whispered, "Tell the truth. I didn't mean revenge. I didn't mean exposure. I meant honesty, the kind that doesn't trend or get likes. Just the truth, in my voice, for once." That night, I messaged David. "Franklin, you knew she was posting it?" David, "I told her not to use the full clip." Franklin, "So you saw it?" David, "She showed me before she posted. She said it would help people." Franklin, "It helped you two bond at least." David, "Don't twist this. We didn't plan to hurt you." Franklin, "You didn't plan to stop either." He didn't reply after that. The next day, Amy texted me. "Amy, can we talk? Amy, please, no cameras, no drama. Amy, just us." Margaret was sitting beside me, watching me type. "Franklin, your Just Us already had 1.2 million people in it." Amy called. I let it ring, then she texted. "Amy, I didn't do it to hurt you, I didn't know how else to express what I was dealing with." Amy, "You're so closed off, Franklin. Sometimes I felt like I was dating in a locked room." Amy, "I needed someone to understand." So she gave them front row seats to my collapse. I could have forgiven the sharing, but I couldn't forgive the intention behind it. I replied once. "Franklin, I would have let you in, if you'd knocked." 3 hours later, she posted a second video. This time, she was crying harder, makeup smeared, no filter. The caption said, "I never meant to be the villain." She spoke directly into the camera. "Franklin, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I was overwhelmed. I made mistakes, but I loved you, still do." She paused dramatically. "David told me not to post that first video. He said people would misunderstand, but I wanted people to see what it was like, loving someone who doesn't know how to be loved." She ended with, "Please stop sending hate. I'm a real person too." It was a performance, her best one yet. The comments were mixed now. Some still praised her, others weren't buying it, and some had already stitched both videos together, comparing timestamps and tone. I didn't say anything publicly. I didn't need to. People were starting to put the pieces together themselves. Later that week, David showed up at my studio. He stood awkwardly near the doorway, hands in pockets. "You look like hell," he said. "Good to see you too," I replied. He sat down on the couch across from me, avoiding eye contact. "I didn't sleep with her," he said. "I never asked. But I figured you'd want to know." I turned in my chair. "Why did she come to you, David?" He sighed. "Because I answered, because you don't. You shut everyone out." I stared at him. "So you answered her by calling me unstable, broken, dead weight?" He shifted in his seat. "It wasn't like that." "Then explain it to me." "She was scared, okay? She said she couldn't reach you. I tried to help." "By encouraging her to leave me?" He didn't answer. I stood up, walked over to him. "You always liked her, didn't you?" "No," he said too quickly. I tilted my head. "You wanted to be the one who saved her from me." "I didn't take her from you," he snapped. "No," I said, "but you didn't stop her either." David exhaled, stood up, and left. No apology, no closure, just silence, the kind he once blamed me for. That night, I opened my laptop, opened my music folder, clicked on the track called Muted and dragged it into a new project. I pulled out the old voice memo of Amy whispering, "I'll always protect you," and layered it behind my verse. Then I added the studio recording of my breakdown, the one she had posted. I twisted the pitch, warped the tempo, turned it into something unrecognizable. Then I added Margaret's voice from a voicemail she left 2 weeks ago. "They don't get to define you, Franklin. Let them choke on the silence you turned into strength." The beat hit slow, heavy, cracked open like ribs around a broken heart. I closed my eyes, hit record, and for the first time in 2 years, I spoke my truth, without crying, without Amy, without David, only me. And it felt like breathing again. Margaret didn't ask what I was recording that night, and I didn't offer. She sat in the corner of the studio, sketching something in her notebook while I bled into the mic. The song wasn't polished. I didn't care. I didn't even plan to release it. I just needed to get it out, somewhere, anywhere but inside me. The truth is, I wasn't angry at Amy anymore. I was tired. Tired of being someone's mirror, tired of being consumed and repackaged as a tragic love story. Tired of people saying, "You're so strong," without knowing the strength it takes just to wake up. Some nights I still played that voicemail. The one where Amy whispered, "You're my favorite kind of broken." And the worst part was, she meant it. That was love to her, not healing, just holding something damaged and calling it art. I stayed in bed for 3 days after David left, not sleeping, not crying, just thinking. Rewinding memories like VHS tapes stuck in a loop. The time she brought me soup when I was sick, but filmed it for her story. The time she bought me new shoes, but posted it as spoiling my sad boy. The time she whispered she loved me, right after asking if I'd written anything new she could share. I began to wonder if she ever touched me without imagining the caption. Margaret came by again on the 4th day. She walked in without spee, aching, tossed a bottle of water at me, and opened the curtains. Light stabbed through the room like truth. "Get up," she said. I blinked. Why? Because lying in this darkness is exactly what she wants people to picture when they think of you. That stung. "Get up, Franklin," she repeated. "Let them see what healing actually looks like, and it starts with you smelling something other than shame." I laughed for the first time in days. It came out cracked and hoarse, but it was real. That night, I shaved, showered, ate a sandwich I didn't like, and slept without needing white noise. But the quiet brought new problems. What if she wasn't done? The video was still up, the second one too. She'd stopped responding to DMs, claiming she was being harassed. David posted a vague message about mental health being private, and people started calling me a bully in his comment section. My inbox was a war zone, half of it support, half of it vitriol. I saw one message that simply read, "You're milking this, she's the one hurting." And for a moment, I doubted myself. What if I was overreacting? What if the text didn't mean what I thought? What if she really did love me, just badly? I reached for my phone, started typing her name, stopped, locked it, unlocked it again, deleted the contact instead. Some pain you don't get to revisit. Margaret caught me staring at the wall later that evening and asked, "Do you want closure or do you want her to say sorry?" "Both," I replied. "She won't," she said simply. "Not in the way you need." And that broke me more than anything, because I realized she was right. Even if Amy apologized, it would be performative, tearful, filtered. She'd cry, say the right lines, maybe even mean some of them, but the damage wasn't the words, it was the fact that she thought they were hers to tell. She took my worst moment and made it her plot twist. I opened my laptop again, played the raw version of Muted. It wasn't ready, but I sent it to one person. Margaret. She texted back 5 minutes later. "This hurts to hear, but I've never been more proud of you. Don't delete it. You turned survival into a song." That night, I walked to the park, the same one Amy and I used to visit. She once said the way I stared at water made her nervous, that I looked like I was trying to find the bottom. She wasn't wrong. I stood at the edge of the lake and whispered, "You don't get to win. Not this time, not again." I pressed record on a short clip of the water and posted it with no caption. Minutes later, she messaged me. "Amy, is that for me?" I didn't reply. "Amy. Franklin, I saw the song, people are tagging me." "Amy. Can we talk?" I shut the phone off and let it sink into the bottom of my backpack. The wind was cold, the kind that made you shiver all the way down to your ribs, but I didn't move. Somewhere behind me, a couple laughed, and in that moment, I realized something I hadn't felt in weeks. Peace, not happiness, not closure, but the heavy silence that comes after you finally stopped explaining yourself. The silence that says, I'm still here, and I don't need you to see it to believe it. A week passed. Muted hadn't dropped publicly yet, but the demo leaked. I didn't post it. Margaret didn't either. The file was saved on a private drive, sent to her personal number only. That meant someone else had access. Edit. It didn't take long to find out how. David. He hadn't replied to me since our last conversation, but he'd downloaded the track. I saw the download notification timestamp on my backup folder, 4 days ago. The same day a Twitter user posted a 30-second snippet with the caption, "When heartbreak turns into art." The post had over 90,000 shares. My voice, twisted over Amy's whispering and the faint sound of me breaking down, became a trend. Someone layered it over videos of people crying. One influencer choreographed a dance to it, and just like that, my trauma was trending again. Only this time, I hadn't given permission. My phone buzzed non-stop, comments poured in, DMs exploded. Margaret called 3 times before I answered. "Did you post it?" she asked. "No." She exhaled sharply. "Someone leaked it." "I know." Silence passed between us. "Do you think it was Amy?" I shook my head. "No, she wouldn't use my actual track. That wasn't hers to leak." "Then?" "David." The word felt sharp in my mouth. Margaret didn't say anything at first, but then her voice dropped. "Why would he do that?" "To prove something," I said bitterly. "To show the world he's still connected to me." "Or maybe to punish you," she added. I didn't disagree. The next day, I confronted him. David didn't deny it. He stood in his kitchen, arms crossed, cold coffee on the counter behind him. "You weren't going to post it," he said. "It would have stayed locked in your little sad folder forever." "So you stole it?" "I shared it." "You shared a song that was born from the worst moment of my life." He looked unbothered. "You didn't say not to." "I didn't think I had to." He gave a shrug. "I gave you credit." "Oh, thanks," I said. "So generous of you to properly tag my breakdown." David took a step forward. "People love it, Franklin. You're finally being seen." I didn't move. "By who?" "The same people who watched her cry and clapped for her performance." "By everyone," he snapped. "You've got a platform now, use it." I stared at him for a long time. "You know what hurts the most?" I finally said. He didn't answer. "You were supposed to be my brother." His jaw tightened. "You didn't just stand by while she broke me, you gave her the tools. She needed someone to talk to." "And I didn't?" His silence was the answer. I left without another word. Later that evening, I sat in the studio, staring at the viral video. My voice distorted, Amy's whisper echoing like a ghost, and a million people reposting it like it was a work of art. No one knew it wasn't meant for them. Margaret came by again. She didn't ask for permission, she just dropped onto the beanbag and handed me tea. "What now?" she asked. I didn't know. It wasn't about Amy anymore. It wasn't even about the track. It was about trust. David didn't just take my song, he took my silence, my timing, my right to choose when I was ready to speak, and he gave it away, to strangers. "I want it taken down," I said. She nodded. "I'll help." We sent takedown requests, flagged content, messaged pages. It slowed the spread, but the damage was done. The internet doesn't forget. Later that night, Margaret asked, "Why didn't you want to release it?" I thought for a moment. Because then I'd have to keep explaining. Explaining what? That it wasn't revenge. It was grief. She looked at me carefully. "Then say that. Out loud." I opened my notes app and started typing. My voice shook, my fingers did too. I didn't write this to trend, I wrote it because I didn't know how to scream anymore. The song wasn't for her, or you, it was for the boy in me that thought no one would ever choose him again. I hit the post. For the first time, I felt like it was mine. The next morning, the comments shifted. Some were still cynical, some tried to mock me, but most, finally understood. Amy didn't message me, not right away. It was David who did. David. You embarrassed me. I replied only once. Franklin. Good. You've spent months doing it to me. That was the last thing I ever said to him. A few hours later, Amy posted again. A photo of the lake, no caption. Same angle as the one I'd posted earlier. It was subtle, intentional. I didn't reply. But Margaret walked into the studio later that day, dropped her backpack, and said, "You're done with both of them now, right?" I didn't answer. She looked at me. Franklin? I met her eyes. I think I've been done for a long time, I just didn't know it yet. That was the moment the grief shifted. It didn't go away. But it finally let go of my throat. It happened quietly. Not with a scream, not with a slap, not even with an apology. The moment everything finally shattered came in the form of a dinner party, a celebration. David was being promoted. Some corporate position in a firm I never remembered the name of, but he invited me anyway. I hadn't responded. Margaret said I shouldn't go, but I needed to see it. I needed to know what kind of man stands behind your back with a knife and still expects a toast. I arrived late. The restaurant was dimly lit, full of glass chandeliers and polished people who smelled like confidence and old money. David stood near the bar, smiling too wide. His suit was perfect, the crowd adored him. Amy was there. Of course she was. She wore a cream dress that hugged her frame like it missed her, and her hair was tied back in that effortless way she always knew made her look innocent. They were standing together. Close, too close. I didn't plan to approach them, I just wanted to see, watch, maybe even leave in silence. But then Amy turned, locked eyes with me, and smiled like nothing had ever happened. Franklin, she said, walking toward me with that same practiced softness. You came. David followed, his hands in his pockets, eyebrows raised like I was the one out of place. I didn't expect you to show, he added. Neither did I replied. Amy stepped forward. Can we talk? Now? I asked. Please. I nodded once. She led me to the hallway by the restrooms, away from the crowd. Her perfume hit first, familiar, designed. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed, lips trembling just enough to be believable. I never wanted this to end like this, she began. Are you dating my brother? She flinched. We're not, David and I aren't. You kissed him, I said flatly. 3 nights before the video went up, in his apartment, he told me. She blinked fast, struggling for words. It wasn't planned. Like filming me crying wasn't planned? Her voice cracked. I loved you, Franklin. No, you didn't, I said calmly. You loved the way I made you feel needed. You loved being the hero, the savior, but you hated the moments when I wasn't strong enough to thank you for it. Tears welled in her eyes, perfectly timed. I was trying to show people what it was like, she whispered, being with someone who couldn't always talk, who got lost in his own head, who hurt without explanation. I stepped closer. Then why did you send that pain to my brother like it was gossip? She opened her mouth, then closed it. You turned me into content, I continued. You took the parts of me that were still healing and fed them to strangers. I didn't know how else to cope, she said. You don't talk, Franklin, you vanish, you disappear into your silence. I vanish, I echoed, but you documented it. I was scared. No, I said, you were bored, you saw something beautiful breaking and thought it made for good footage. She didn't deny it. I looked down at her hands, no ring, no signs of commitment, no visible guilt, just painted nails and silence. You said you loved me, I whispered. I did, she replied. No, I said again, firmer this time. You loved being better than me, you loved knowing people would applaud you for staying. Or for suffering, but I was the one suffering, you were performing. She gasped. That's not fair. Isn't it? Franklin, she said, reaching out. I stepped back. I'm not yours to reach for anymore. She lowered her hand slowly, her voice was barely audible. I didn't mean to lose you. You never had me, I replied. You had my wounds, and you built a stage out of them. The lights overhead buzzed. Somewhere in the dining area, laughter rose, clinked against glasses. "Why did you come?" she asked finally. "To end it." A single tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it. I turned and walked back toward the main room. David stood near the bar, sipping from a glass of something amber. He saw me coming and straightened his posture. "Did she tell you?" he asked. I nodded. "Everything she wanted to do." "She's hurting too, you know." I stared at him. "She's always hurting," I said. "But she doesn't stop cutting people to prove it." David put his drink down. "You know I didn't mean for it to go this far." "You always say that," I said. "You didn't mean to talk behind my back, you didn't mean to leak the song, you didn't mean to kiss her, but you did all of it." He didn't speak. I took a breath. "You were supposed to be the one who had my back." "I was trying to help," he said weakly. "No," I said. "You were trying to feel superior, because for once, I had something that wasn't yours." "I never wanted Amy." "Then why did you take her?" He looked away. "She's not even the one I'm mad about anymore," I continued. "It's you." He turned back to me. "I never got to be broken around you," I said. "I always had to be the messy brother, the burden, and you were the one people trusted. You got the grace, I got the diagnosis." He winced. "I just wanted someone to protect me." "I thought I was," he whispered. I shook my head. "Then you weren't watching closely enough." There was nothing left to say. I turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving them both behind. Outside, the air was cold, sharp, real. Margaret was waiting by her car. She leaned against the hood, arms crossed, no makeup, hoodie pulled over her head. "You okay?" she asked. "No," I said honestly, "but I think I will be." She nodded. "Good." I opened the passenger door, slid in. The engine hummed, the heater blew warm air into my face. We drove in silence for a while, then she said, "Do you regret it?" "Which part?" "Telling the truth." I looked out the window, lights blurred by. "No," I said. "I regret waiting so long." She reached across the console and squeezed my hand. "I'm glad you came back." "I didn't come back," I replied. "I just finally left the places I didn't belong." She smiled without turning her head. "Good, now stay out." The road stretched ahead, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like mine. I never posted about Amy again. Not after the restaurant, not after the confrontation, not after the tears she left hanging in the hallway like a half-closed curtain waiting for one last applause. But silence didn't surrender. I had something better than a viral song or a trending breakdown. I had the truth, and I had time. 3 weeks later, I got an email from a production company. One of the interns had found my unreleased EP buried inside an old demo submission. The subject line read, "Muted, we want to help you finish what they started." They offered me a studio, no strings, no camera crews, no press, just a clean slate. Margaret was the first person I told. She was the one who stood by me when everyone else wanted a story. When I gave her the news, she didn't scream or cry. She just leaned her head against my shoulder and whispered, "It's about time." The studio they gave me was small, with bare walls and warm lights. I didn't need luxury, I needed space. Every song I recorded was personal, but not just about the breakup, not just about Amy. They were about what came before, the end. I almost didn't make it, the guilt of still breathing when people expected me to disappear, the ache of being seen only when I was bleeding, but also, about Margaret, about her quiet presence, the way she never tried to fix me, just reminded me I was worth showing up for. I called the album Unposted, because the most powerful things are the ones that never make it online. 3 months later, on the night of the release, it went live at midnight. No previews, no teasers, just a message. To everyone who thought my story was theirs to tell, this one's for the parts you couldn't reach. It exploded, not viral like a scandal, but sacred. Listeners said it felt like breathing underwater and finally reaching the surface. Amy didn't message me, but David did. "David, saw the album, didn't expect you to go that far." I didn't reply. Because I had, and it wasn't far enough. You see, there was one thing left. The final page. Amy had built a platform off healing from toxic relationships. Her followers were growing again. She started a podcast, invited influencers, talked about boundaries, trauma, growth. But I noticed something odd. Every episode, a new version of our story, one where I was always the villain, one where David was just a kind listener who gave her strength. So I wrote a letter, but not to her sponsors, to her partners, to the brands posting her clips with captions like survivor turned speaker. And I included everything. The raw footage, the screenshots, the leaked DMs. The private apology David sent weeks later was admitted to the timeline of the kiss. The one where he said, "We went too far, I thought she was done with you." I packaged it like a press kit, neat, chronological, factual, no attacks, no slurs, just reality. And I ended with, "This is not to destroy her, this is to reclaim what she took from me, my voice, my name, my image. You can choose who you partner with, but I will no longer stay silent while someone sells fiction using my pain." By morning, 3 of her sponsors had pulled out. By the weekend, her podcast was on indefinite hiatus. By Monday, her account was locked for violating content guidelines after clips resurfaced of her filming me without consent. She didn't post for 2 weeks, and when she came back, the follower count was half. Her first post, a single quote, "Sometimes you don't know who you are until they try to erase you." The comments were brutal. "Girl, you erased him first. No apology yet? Wow. Your entire career was built on a man's breakdown." But I didn't comment, didn't repost, didn't even smile. I just exhaled. The album reached over 1 million streams in less than a month. A record label offered a deal. I turned it down. I didn't want to belong to anyone ever again. Margaret moved into the apartment next to mine. She never called it dating, she just said, "We're just existing better, together." And that was enough. One night, after a small acoustic show, I sat with her on the fire escape. The city buzzed below. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Do you miss them?" she asked. I shook my head. "No. I miss who I thought they were." She nodded. "That version died with the old you." I glanced at her. "And what about me now?" She smiled, soft and warm. "You finally posted the right story." We sat there for a long time, no music, no drama, no audience, just 2 people who had nothing left to prove. That was my revenge, not the downfall, not the public backlash, but the fact that I no longer needed their validation. Franklin Reyes, the boy they once called broken, was no longer content. He was the author, and this time, he hit the post.